The prepping community has considerably grown over the last several years. When people stumble upon the videos at City Prepping, you can see this in the comments section. There are all types of preppers. Some people have been prepping for years without realizing it. Some people are coming to prepping after seeing how fragile systems we rely upon really are. A pandemic, supply chain failures, wars, recessions, financial bubbles bursting, riots and political instability, natural disasters. Whatever the reason is, if you're here, you have found your way to prepping. And whether you realize you have always been sort of prepping throughout your entire life, or you have no idea where to begin, it's essential to understand the purpose here at City Prepping and the real reasons you're here. If you're new to this channel, my name is Chris, and on this channel we discuss emergency preparedness, aka prepping. Now, before we jump in, I do want to apologize for not getting the solar generator comparison video out yet. I've been working around the clock on it for over a week and a half now, and it's been a bit of an undertaking, and to be honest with you, it's a lot more work than I originally thought. I've learned a lot through the process of how to compare these against each other, and so I hope to have that video out in the next week or two. I've mentioned it a few times in the last couple of weeks that I would have it up shortly, and again, I'm working on it diligently, and I think it will be a very, very informative video once I get everything together and I show the differences between the various brands, the pros and cons of each, and I'm really going to try to answer the question that always comes up: which one is the best and will it fit my needs? So again, thanks for your patience, and I hope to have that wrapped up here pretty soon. All right. Every now and then, I like to sit down and revisit the foundations of this channel and the reasons and motivations that drive me as a prepper. The goal of this channel is to be a resource for you, and I hope that the point of this channel is not to scare you, but to provide you with information you can find useful. As a team at City Prepping, we do take this responsibility seriously. And there's a lot happening right now in the world, and I have to acknowledge that there's a multitude of things that could potentially happen right now. And I feel like we're at this kind of weird moment in history where a simple event could change our collective future. And history is replete with times where these small instances interrupt a time of peace, and suddenly everything changes and the course of humanity is altered. Now, saying that, this channel will still cover the news and assess the threats we see out there, but we have to start with a worst possible scenario standpoint and try to work backwards to nothing happening at all. And there's a real danger in staying on either side of the spectrum, kind of on either end of that pendulum. And I could be fixated on fear on one side nonstop with this channel and burn everybody out and constantly keep people on edge, something that I personally have no desire of doing. But I could also play down the threats so much that we have no one that really takes the events that are playing out as serious. Now, I know people are on edge right now. And as I mentioned a few weeks ago, I decided to suspend product reviews on this channel as I'm concerned with people spending their money out of motivation based on fear. I've had companies reaching out to me nonstop over the last month, letting me know that now is the time to showcase their product, as they've been selling their widget nonstop with everything that's happening in the world. And while I will be doing a comprehensive solar generator review shortly that will showcase the various items on the market, as I keep getting asked about what is the best option, I just don't want to come at you, the individual sitting on the other side of the screen, starting from the angle of fear. Fear sells right now, and admittedly, I don't feel comfortable making a commission off the sale of a product under these circumstances. And there's a lot of money to be made right now in this market. But when I see individuals like Alex Jones, I'll give you an example, it personally makes me livid and sick at the same time that these shills, these proprietors of fear and misinformation, they bend their audiences into knots with lies and then push their products on top of them. It's one of those few things which personally upsets me, which is why I'm trying to make sure that this channel doesn't have the slightest appearance of utilizing similar tactics. And I realize that many in the audience are concerned about the events playing out in the world. And I share those same concerns, but I'm not making major financial changes in my life at this time, which sets me back in the future, and I would encourage you to do the same. All right, having gotten that out of the way, having said all that, we try to inform our community without stoking too much fear, but sometimes this isn't possible. And again, this is a hard line to walk sometimes with a channel that's dedicated to this subject matter. And at the end of the video, I'll be a little more candid and share some kind of insight and some of the struggles that I'm having with this channel determining how I will present content. From my perspective, the world is undergoing many challenges and will continue to face threats in the immediate future. And clearly at this time, there's a lot of horrible things happening around the world, and there's a lot of uncertainty right now. And not acknowledging the events that are playing out is like burying one's head in the sand. For some individuals, normalcy bias, it allows them to get through the day. It's simply easier to ignore what's happening. And let's be honest, many families are struggling with the rapid inflation we're experiencing at the moment. It's hard to focus on so many threats and problems out there when putting food on the table and just paying the bills is becoming more and more challenging. While I personally don't like to fixate on all of the problems out there, I have personally decided instead to focus on my small piece of the world to try and stack the odds in my family's favor should anything major play out. So in saying that, we try so hard to temper our perspective here at this channel with facts, logic, an assessment of the possibilities, and a historical look at what you can practically do to make it through whatever threat manifests. All that to say, we certainly hope our worst case scenarios never come true. And I acknowledge that there is a possibility that some of your preps, they may go entirely unused in your lifetime, that nothing happens to you. And you know what? I hope that is the case. I hope that you don't have to utilize any of the things that you store away or any of the emergency preparedness gear. That is the best case scenario. A few years ago, I was only talking about a pandemic as a possibility on this channel, and then it became a probability, and then it played out. Just a few years ago, I was discussing how to survive a power outage during a winter storm. Then millions in Texas were forced to do that same thing, to prepare and then to go through an ice storm that took out their power grid. Before 2020, I was discussing the vulnerabilities of the just-in-time delivery system, the global supply chain. And here we are dealing with this exact situation at this moment. I'm not trying to insinuate that somehow I have inside information or know more than you, but when looking at just how fragile the systems that we become dependent upon, it's not really hard to piece things together. And look, there's always a possibility that nothing will happen. And there's a possibility that the Ukraine-Russian talks, that they'll all go well and the tides of war will recede. At the time of recording this video, today is Wednesday, March 30th, when I'm recording this, I am optimistic that this will be the case. And I hope that things will play out soon in such a way that Russia backs out of Ukraine and everybody goes on with their life. But based on the number of lies that Putin has told, the misinformation campaigns he so famously runs on his own country and his attempts to do so with the rest of the world, I'm not overly optimistic at this time. Sure, the threats that we face are plentiful, but all that to say, start today to prepare. I always encourage folks to start slow with their prepping endeavors, and remember, don't panic. Be methodical and purposeful in your preps. And while we're currently in the middle of a storm, we will likely continue to see challenges that threaten not only our way of life, but potentially our very existence. So why prep? Why become less dependent upon these systems we see some evidence of failing? For myself, I want to provide a little insurance between my family and the world out there. 60 or 70 years ago, our grandparents just called that living. I remember before my grandmother's passing, she lamented and shared her concern with me, the reality that so many in my generation, and again, this is about 20 years ago, were really losing their ability to develop any self-sufficiency skills. And at that time, I didn't identify as a prepper. I never heard the term, but it was interesting. That's an event that always plays back in my mind when I think about her generation. And if you don't want to call it prepping, that's fine if you're uncomfortable with that word. I know a lot of times this phrase prepping has negative connotations associated with it. Years ago, when people asked what my YouTube channel was about, I usually just told them emergency preparedness. Now, when I mention prepping, I get a lot of people that pull me aside and are like, yeah, I'm doing that too now. I've become a prepper recently. It's funny. It's no longer, how should I say, it doesn't have as much of a negative view as it did in the past. But that's not for everyone. I know that. Now, look, if I'm just being honest, I have struggled walking the line at times with this channel of examining threats we face while not moving toward the more conspiratorial side that really often appeals to some of this community. And I know that some content gets more clicks that appeals or rather tries to kind of go in that direction. But hey, to each their own. That's just not my direction. Prepping, it's a big tent, and we all have our own views. And I respect everybody's views as much as it in regards to what they're preparing for, what is their concerns. I'll put it that way. But for me, watching so much misinformation being spread throughout the world, I'm always so cautious regarding what I say on this channel, and that's for a reason. I realize the words I say have weight. I've been given this platform for whatever reason, and I want to be so careful to make sure that I'm not being in any way involved with spreading misinformation. I hope you understand and appreciate that position. And maybe that's why this channel is a little more conservative and, how should I put it, kind of down the middle of the road. It's not because I'm trying to please anybody as much as I just want to be careful with how I present information, and I value truth. I think it's the best way to summarize it. Now, like I said earlier, I do want to be a resource for you. And if you follow this channel and you simply learn to do a little more for yourself, that's great. If you get your finances in better order, or you learn to cook or pickle your own food, or keep the heat on through a winter storm, we'll both be glad you found us here. And this is not a channel that encourages you to panic buy or prepare more than you feel you need to. And I sometimes get criticized for not being extreme enough. And we also get criticized for stoking fears when we soberly try to acknowledge the real threats that we face and that we see in the world. And in my opinion, it is never really a time to freak out. Now, if I knew there was a major threat incoming, that might be a different story. And as I always say, never make life-changing decisions during a time of stress, or for many in this community, a time of fear. Focus on what you can do today. Could bad things happen within 24 hours or 48 hours from now? Absolutely. But it's just as likely that you still have far more time than that narrow window. And I don't know how anyone can really profess to speak with that level of certainty. Again, remember, gang, I am just a YouTuber. I'm someone that has enough sense to share what I'm learning to hopefully help you on your journey, but I have no secret inside information. My guess is that anyone that does probably won't be sharing it on a platform like this anyways. Just my 2 cents. And starting today, even setting aside a few cans of food per paycheck may be enough to get you through a couple of days of disaster. Start where you are today. The best time to start preparing was a year or two ago, and the second best time is now. And this is the best time that we've been given, so take advantage of it. Develop your prepping plan, your family's plan for greater independence and self-sufficiency, and please, if you haven't started already, do so now. It is not too late. I hope you never have to rely solely on your preps, and if you do have to, you will be ready. And if you don't, you'll at least have secured a greater peace of mind in an increasingly more tumultuous world. Now, earlier in the video, I mentioned that at the end of this video, I would talk more candidly about the challenge I face with this channel of walking the line between providing information and stoking fear. What motivates many of us in the preparedness community? It really varies from person to person, but based on my time in this community, for many, it is an underlying sense of fear. For some, it's the desire to be self-sufficient, but under that current of even self-sufficiency is that fear that if I don't take care of my own piece of the world, I can't rely upon somebody else. So whether you call it fear, self-sufficiency, concern about the future, I think we're all kind of in this mix together. And I know many are watching the events that have been playing out over the last couple of years, and they realize it's time to get their affairs in order. And even more so in the last couple of months with what's been happening in Ukraine. And most people are beginning to wake up to the fact that the world we live in, that we used to live in, it's vanishing. And it's a fight that I personally have to deal with on this channel. Do I stoke the flames of fear for views that end up translating to more money to line my pockets? Or do I try to promote calm and rational views which aren't exactly in vogue right now in the community? Maybe people aren't as excited to see how to make soap or laundry detergent. And again, I'm not saying, hey, because you didn't watch my video, you're not supporting the channel. But I do realize at the end of the day, what's going to get the clicks? Trust me, when I sit down to make a video, a title, and the thumbnail, with almost 90% certainty, I know how well a video will do based on what's happening. And it's unfortunately a lot of times because of the concerns that the community has for what's playing out. But for me, I've decided to back off the fear element, and I've tried to stick with the basics to help people. And I know I could crank out fear all day and I'd get the clicks, but for the life of me, I just can't really bring myself to do it. I recently had a long chat with my dad a couple of weeks ago, and in that conversation, he really challenged me. Even in the past, not just that conversation, but I remember last summer, he challenged me to be careful with how I utilize this channel. Do I motivate people by fear? And I'm glad I listened to him back then, because not only did I listen to him, but I learned to listen to my conscience. And I know there's a real person sitting on the other side of the screen. Look, I'm staring at a camera and I'm talking right now. But I know you, the viewer, no matter if you're watching this on TV, on your cell phone, your computer, wherever it is, I know I have a responsibility to hopefully provide encouragement, to give you resources to prepare. And I am not about to make the excuse or defend any measures to stir people up right now with fear. I could justify scaring people, but I refuse to do it. And look, I have kids and I'm concerned about their future as a father. And I have a responsibility, and I'm going to do all I can to respect you in the same manner. I want to encourage you. I want to spur you and not scare you. Again, just being honest here. It's a line I'm trying to walk with this channel, and I'm doing all I can to take the high road on this. It's frustrating. Again, just kind of pulling the curtain back. I released a video today. It was very well thought out. We spent a lot of time researching and putting it together, and it's pretty much fallen flat on its face. It hasn't got many views. It's ranked lowest out of my last 10 videos. And I was a little frustrated at first, but I realized, hey, at the end of the day, I think we put out material that was very useful, done in integrity, and I feel good about the point I'm trying to make is I want to bring balance to this channel, and I don't want everything to be about fear nonstop. And if I can encourage you with useful information, I feel like I've done my job. Let me finish by saying this. Keep in mind how you got here. Have you kind of been preparing your whole life but really never called it prepping? Have you come to this channel because you're beginning to see the cracks in what you thought was a functional system? Regardless of how long you've been preparing, what you're preparing for, or what you call it, there are some fundamental underpinnings that we all try to, as a team, that we try to cover on this channel. And I hope you allow me the opportunity to be a resource for you. And I encourage you to go through some of the other videos on this channel and brush up on some practical skills, learning how to get a year's supply worth of stored food. That's a video that I did about a year ago. It's one of the videos I'm very proud of. And I'll post a link to it up in the cards above, and I'll also post it in the end screen of this video. It goes over a lot of information on how to practically lay out a year's supply. And if you watch it and you say, I only want to do a month or 2 months or 3 months, that's fine. Do what works for you, but have a plan in place. Now, if you're starting out on your food supply, I would definitely recommend you check out a video I did on how to build a 2-week food supply. That would not feel as overwhelming as compared to the 1-year food supply video, but I think both of them are incredible resources, and I'll post links to both of those at the end of the video and in the cards above. As always, please stay safe out there.